Morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes, great. Well, welcome to the Crook County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Wednesday, April the 16th, 2025. Time is 9 o'clock a.m. So we'll get started. Mike Urban, would you like to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You doing?
Well, I don't know. Oh, Brian's here. Yeah. Brian, would you come up and give a prayer? Brian Carmick is with Eastside Church.
Father, thank you so much for these who lead our community. I just pray blessing on them for wisdom and clear direction today. Also just pray for that spirit of unity and peace here today. May we all work together to see this community become everything that it should be. Thank you for each person who is here today and all that they bring to our community. Pray blessing on each one today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, we'll start off with some public comments. Good morning, Adam.
Adam Mikulski, 3992 Northwest Tehansik. I'll probably join you on the public comment at the end, but I wanted to do this one first since it was prior to one of your discussion items on the agenda. So I attended the city meeting with the council last Tuesday. So this presentation was there. So I actually know what was in the presentation. So I thought I'd share before you get it. What my thoughts are, or the public comment would be on that. So it actually is dealing with the EDCO budget proposal for sustainable economic development. So sitting in through the presentation, I think from a taxpayer standpoint or a citizen from the taxpayers in here, this organization, what I see is a non-governmental organization. It's private. Of lobbyists, and they're asking for $10,000 more from the county, 10,000 more from the city. The county now pays $50,000. The city also pays $50,000. What I noticed in the presentation was, I know we need economic development, but one of the things in the presentation I saw was that they work with easing the regulations for economic development, which means I'm not in favor for a lot of regulations, and some don't make sense, but a lot of regulations are in place to protect the public out here, the citizens and all that. So, going through this whole thing, they're asking the city and county to become members to provide funding on the on an ongoing basis. Basically, it's like a gold card, platinum card. I think it's actually, if you join, and they can answer that later, but I didn't have a chance to ask any of these questions at the meeting because it was so heated on the biomass thing that they had to move it out. So you get a gold card or a platinum card, you get to join, and I got to make some humor in this thing. And if you do, I guess you get some free Ginsu knives, but sorry, I had to put that in there because you know me. But at the end of this whole presentation, my wife and I discussed this, and I think what we got out of this thing was they were needing more money to maybe retain one employee. And I know they hire certain employees, they have a certain amount of folks and all that, but that's what I got. And maybe they can answer to that also, because I won't go any further on that one. But I know the person I talked to, and I have his card, I talked to him here, but I already forgot his number. But I know he said in the meeting, it's hard to send money to Bend. So my public comment is taxpayer money should not be used to support an NGO lobbyist organization and give employees raises. So I did ask this gentleman if his public information on what compensation is paid to their employees. Well, since it's a private organization, I don't know. I mean, I work for the government. That was all free information. You can actually go on the internet and find out who made what. We can't do that. So I think we talk about money, we talk about budgets. I know we talked about it in December, people that, you know, in the community that don't have any money. This is actually taxpayer money that funds some of these organizations, and everybody seems to be coming to the county for 10,000 or 20,000. And I think we really need to be diligent on what the taxpayers might know. And I'm talking for taxpayers I haven't even talked to, but I think most taxpayers don't come to this and don't even know this is actually going on and what the money is getting spent for, you know, spend on. So, I thought I'd make the comment on that. So
When you talk to them, make sure they come.
I wish they would.
Yeah, I do too.
I think we have a real
really
big
do too.
problem of not getting information out, and then people
Totally
don't
agree.
get involved in this. And then when it finally affects you in the backyard, like it affected us with Knife River and all that, now all of a sudden you start coming to this. But then we don't go to the city meetings either because we're in the county. Well, guess what? We're going to have to start going to the city meetings because I do have a lot of questions on the biomass and urban growth boundary and all that. But I'm going to save that for the comment, the public comment at the end, because I'm not going to slow down the meeting and everything. Plus, I only have 5 minutes anyway. So anyway, that's my comments. And I talked to the folks and said, this is not personal. This is just another concerned citizen with a comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
very
Adam.
much, Thank you.
Next. Okay. Move on to consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
I think, does this gentleman over here have a public comment though? You started to raise your
I have
hand.
a question about the biomass. Should I wait till later to do that? I don't want to mess up your agenda, but
It's whatever you want to do.
You need to come up and state your
You need-
name and
yeah.
address.
it is Ken Smith. Address is 10761 West Peppermint Drive. I'm a little bit confused as to whether I want to do this now or later, but maybe I'll do a little bit of both if it's okay.
It's totally up to you.
Fine.
Okay, but you know, I live on the back side of where they want to put in that biomass. I live on, my wife and I, we live on the east side of that. We have about 150 acres there. It's all good farm ground. So I'm a little bit confused why the county is, or city and county, I'm not sure who to point my finger at, is wanting to remove that ground out of agriculture and put it into a rock pit. We probably, on my side, I probably get 6 tons to the acre, and that comes from Gerald Wilkinson, who farms it. So, I mean, they get, in a good year like this year, we'll get 7 tons an acre. So that's a pretty profitable agriculture ground. But Knife River or Mark Stafford, both of them would like to put it into a rock pit. So I disagree with that. And on top of it, we're going to put in a biomass machine. Have you folks ever had much to do with the biomass industry at all, as far as the health issues with it? Yes, no?
No,
No.
not at all.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I guess my other question too is, and you guys probably don't have any special relationships with, as far as financial business dealings with Knife River or Mark Stafford, because I mean, Mark's into, or the Stafford family, I should say, is into the ranching agriculture, but that's not an issue that we need to worry about. Because I think that would influence your decision a little bit. But we're okay with that, Brian?
Yeah,
Well,
you're kind of going down a road that is a little premature to go down. But because we aren't even approached to having to look at that biomass. This is still all within the city, number one. And I don't have any conflicts with Staffords or anyone else. There's been a gravel pit there since the first day I can remember. And it's always been there, and it's zoned for gravel pit, and
Right.
it's all a Goal 5 resource. It's all, you know, I'm not going to get into all of it, but, you know, we will discuss, that UGB, and it's got to go through our planning department
Okay.
and planning commission. They have hearings. And there's a lot of process that happens before it comes to us to make a decision on.
And actually, I wasn't talking about a conflict with the Stafford family. That was just the opposite. I didn't know if you had any special business, you know, concerns with them that would influence your.
Yeah, I don't have any conflicts of interest
Huh.
with any of the parties involved.
Okay. Um,
And before we move on, I just, my wife and I own some property right in that whole area, so I don't plan on weighing in on it at all
Okay,
throughout the entire process. I just don't think that's fair for me.
so you're part of the John and Susan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. Um, so then and I'm not sure what the total process is. We, wait for the city to approve or disapprove and then you folks end up with it.
Well, the county goes in through, the city will ask to do it, for the urban growth ground boundary change. And then it'll go before our planning commission and our planning department. And John Eisler's in charge of that department, and they will hear it and ultimately it'll probably come before us to, approve the planning commission's decisions on however that goes.
Okay. Well, yeah, that helps. I'll wait till the end. Thank you.
You bet.
I'm Julie Thompson on Green Valley Road again. So when he just said about the Stafford pit that's already there and you said it's already zoned for that, I don't believe that's correct. I believe it's still farmland, but it's with the CUP that it's being mined. It's not zoned heavy industrial.
Well, the existing, was Primeville.
Rock products. And
Well, even before that, it
Yeah,
was,
been-
it's
forever,
been there since I can remember.
but it's my understanding that it's still farmland. It just has a CUP, correct?
I don't know.
It is still EFU, yes. So
Which a gravel pit is an approved use on EFU. You can
Right.
have a gravel pit on EFU.
with a CUP. But if the growth boundary gets changed and it's all turned into heavy industrial, that all changes.
That's a question for the guy sitting next to
They
you.
still need a conditional use permit, but it doesn't have all of the legalities and you don't have to follow all the same rules. It's much easier to get it in place, correct? Yeah. So that's a big concern because of the issues that we already have on our side of town with our water. We know that Knife River has not mined correctly. We know that they haven't followed their CUPs. So if we go and we change all this land and it gets mined like our land got mined, not that the water levels are the same or any of that, what's that going to do to everybody else around there? And I know we haven't proved yet that it is Knife River that has caused our water issues, but there's so many. We know we've been through this every meeting for a while now. So many things that point that direction. And to take more farmland and put it into that urban growth boundary when there's 7 parcels of heavy industrial already still available. The old mill sites and all of that, that I think should be taken into account before we tear up more of our farmland. I mean, that's a huge concern. And I know that Seth has property. Well, we all know how to use the GIS maps and all these things in the county because you get smart when you start looking at this. And if this growth boundary takes effect, will that property not be annexed into the city?
Yeah, that's why I'm completely staying out of it because I don't think it's appropriate for me
Right.
to
So that,
weigh in on something that,
But Julie, also, why don't we wait until April 23rd? And let's listen to DEQ
sure,
and listen to the results of their water tests. And then let's get that issue kind of settled and see what they have to say and see what these water tests say.
right.
And then let's wait until the city approaches us for this UGB, because we haven't been approached with anything. I've kind of stayed not really studying it because I want to see what DEQ comes forth and figure that out. And then let's look at the UGB. So I kind of, I mean, I hate to tell you to be patient because I mean, how long have I been telling you to be patient? And I agree with that. But I really am anxious to hear what results we get on April 23rd. And I do agree that that there's a certain department of the state that has let us down, but we have DEQ has tried to help us, and let's maybe wait to see what we hear next Wednesday.
Okay, so
So real quick, along those lines, I actually had the chance to have dinner with the Secretary of State a couple nights ago. And I brought up your guys' concerns with Dagami. And they are the auditing agency of the state. And he obviously wasn't gonna that night say, yeah, we're gonna do it.
Right.
But I think it was really good for him to hear from myself, some other people that lived in the area were there
Right.
as well and shared their concerns about how Dagami was managing those issues.
Right.
And so,
Can I just, like, to be patient is hard because
I
we
know it
wouldn't have
is.
all showed up to that last city meeting. They would have voted on it. Had we not found out and all went there, it would have been voted on that night and it would have went through and went to the next level. So to be patient
I get it.
is really, really hard because once that happens, you don't change it back. It doesn't just
No.
undo itself. And according to what I know from speaking to DEQ, it will be 2 years before they finish their testing to know exactly, unless we come up with the $50,000 to pay a private entity to do the testing. And again, the county's giving away more money and, to support other things, but we can't help support this mess that's been made. So it's really, really hard to be patient.
I know. I agree with you. I hear you. And what's really sad about basically, and I address Adam on this, is people, you get up and you go to work every day and you come home and you take the kids to 4-H or soccer or baseball or whatever, and you come home and you cook dinner and you give the kids a bath and you go to bed and you're tired and you don't have time to watch the news and you don't have time to read the newspaper. And I get it. And all of a sudden you hear something and yeah,
Right.
I get it because, and that's why you end up hearing something and ending up at City Hall and maybe even it goes through and you don't know about it. And I totally understand because I remember in my prime getting caught off guard and ending up in the last call and storming City Hall or county meetings. And it's unfortunate that that is the way it works. And I'm very glad you guys heard about it. I'm very glad you were there. And that is just a sad way. And the 750 feet just doesn't work in the way we have our large parcels. It just doesn't. And I
So is that
understand
that-
totally.
that letter that was sent out to the people within 750 feet, was that a city decision or a county decision?
Well, that would have been, the city would have been the one
So
that
the city-
notified because that was a city meeting.
So the city sends the letter but followed the county's 750 foot.
Well, when they come to us about the UGB decision, that will be on us. That will be on us, but this would have been the city that did the meeting that you attended last
Will
week.
you guys send out another letter if it passes the city?
When we will notify you when it comes to us.
You will? Or you-
Yes.
Yes,
So when you do that, will you notify the people in that area by mail or how will it be? Because if you do, I would love it if you would do maybe like that whole side of town, not just 750 feet, because whatever industry goes in there, whether it's biomass, manufacturing, concrete, whatever it is that goes in there is going to affect that entire side of town, and if not the whole town, depending on traffic and other things. So 750 feet gets you the house right next door. That's not fair.
that's a question, I guess, for community development to answer.
You want- Here, go for it.
For the record, John Oster, Community Development. I think what Commissioner Hermick was trying to say about being patient, be patient for government decisions, but I think be persistent with your public input. I think you guys did a great job. Everybody in the city did a great job at the city's meeting. I don't think they were considering all viewpoints. I definitely don't think they can get inside your brains since you guys came out and had your voice heard. And I think they're definitely taking your comments seriously and maybe going back to the drawing table. And we had been scheduling the county side of that UGB process, but that's been tabled. And so the urgency is not there. When it does come, we do the mailing. That's required by the state as far as those measurements go, the 750 feet. But I am, so I get a spare minute, working on getting our website set up so we can have kind of a current events page for the public to come look at. Anytime you want to know what's going on with land use in Crook County, you can click on that and you can see what's coming up. That's a more cost-effective way than us trying to send out mailers to everybody in town. So I would assume that's done before, and if the UGB thing comes back to us, but you guys will definitely know.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Lori Desjardins, Quail Valley Drive. So Commissioner Barney, you kind of alluded that comments about the biomass plant were preliminary or it was too preliminary. Is this not the body that we should be bringing up concerns to?
The body that's in charge of it is the city of Prineville. They're actually on the biomass. They're the leaders of it. This has been advertised and knowledgeable for a long time. They've been working on it for years.
I understand that. I
Yeah,
was aware.
but
of
they're the ones that are, backing this project. They've always had our support because it is, seems like it's more controversial than what everybody realized, but, it has its advantages. And so we have been, participating in, not financially, but in, moral support and for our agricultural industry and junipers and different things. But it is the city that is spearheading this project.
So that's where our comments, concerns need to
Well,
be.
you're welcome to comment here. Yeah, I mean, it's on the
Yeah,
record, but we haven't received any.
Can't do anything. Why hear it? Oh, so it sounds like we need to go to the city meetings. I just want to clear this up. We need to attend the city of Prineville meetings to voice our concerns, questions that we have about the biomass plant.
Yes.
Okay?
Let me just,
But you have everything on record here too.
let me just chime in again, just for the record, so you guys can understand the process. So the comments should be directed to the city now because they are considering the issue right now. They're considering the UGB expansion, and with that, part and parcel is the biomass plan. When it comes to us, it will be consideration of the UGB amendment. That'll be on our plate. If it passes the city, then it comes to us at that time. Please come out, give all the public comment you can. That's when we're going to be considering the issue. That's when your public comment will be helpful for our decision-making process. That's not on the table here yet. After it goes through us, if we did decide to approve it, it would then go through DLCD for state approval. So there's a process. You just need to make sure at the right spot. It doesn't hurt to give public comment now, but if you give it when we're actually considering the issue, it'll go on the record. It'll have to be considered.
And when it comes to us, our issues will be that we deal with is changing the urban growth boundary. It's primarily that. It's not what they do with it at the end. It's to change that to the urban growth boundary.
Mike Irvin, Plana Highway. And just an FYI on the biomass plant, the city council, if I'm not mistaken, they have a meeting next Tuesday, which is the 22nd. And any comments and or the learning process, educating ourselves, it would be a good start to go to that meeting and see what's going on. Because Commissioner Barney, you're correct. It's the ball's in their court right now, and that's where we need to get our information from. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, let's go on to our discussion items.
Oh,
Yep.
was there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
No, we haven't with
Oh,
consent agenda.
you were right. That's good.
Yes, that's okay.
Yeah.
Got a lot of public comment. We got a little diverted. Okay,
Motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion?
No discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Rick, aye.
Barney, aye. Okay, now we can go on. Discussion proclamation regarding April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And I think we have online Joanne Gardner, with Saving Grace.
Know that?
You hear us, Joanna?
Joanna, can you hear us?
It looks like she's muted. again.
Shows her little microphone has a slash.
up. It was gone before.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
there you are.
Okay, sorry, I was having trouble unmuting for some reason. Thank you for having us here. Would you like me to read the proclamation or are you all gonna read it?
I think I'll read it. But you're welcome to talk about it and then I can read it and put
Okay,
it up.
great. Thank you. So this is the 24th annual Sexual Assault Awareness Month this April. And so we're just here to say that sexual assault affects everybody in a community and that everyone in the community has a role in promoting an environment that's safe for everyone. So we're here to ask that everyone get involved by supporting survivors, speaking out against sexual assault, and holding perpetrators accountable.
Great, thank you. So
Thank you.
we've been provided a proclamation. I'll read it. Whereas sexual violence affects every person in Crook County, whether as a victim or a survivor or a family member, friend, partner, neighbor, educator, employer, or coworker. And whereas systemic oppression and inequity create a culture in which some communities are especially targeted for violence and experience greater barriers to access services. And whereas now, more than ever, we are being reminded that we are capable of change and each person makes choices every day that either support or challenge a culture of violence. And whereas every individual in Crook County has a role to play in moving change forward and promoting health and safety for all people. By not tolerating violence, by promoting accountability, and by participating in the efforts to end violence. And whereas new efforts build on foundations laid by dedicated advocates, preventionists, activists, and other partners who have been doing this work for decades. And whereas by taking action where you work, play, learn, worship, or live, change is possible and sexual violence is preventable when we all are working together to end systemic oppression, the root cause of sexual violence. Now, therefore, we hereby proclaim April 2025 to be Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Crook County and encourage all Oregonians to join in this observance. Entertain a motion?
I am very honored to make a motion to proclaim April Sexual Assault Awareness Month and approve this proclamation.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any discussion?
Discussion?
All in favor, say aye.
Irma
Aye.
Guy.
Barney, aye. So moved. Thank you, Joanne. Edco.
That's okay. That'd be great. Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, Kelsey.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present an economic update for you guys on what's going on with our local economy, as well as make our budget requests for the year. I'm Kelsey Lucas, the Prineville Crook County Director with EDCO, and I have with me John Stark, EDCO CEO, and Greg Lambert, who's one of our founding program members for the Prineville program and one of our current board members. Our president is off winning Realtor of the Year for the state, so he wasn't able to make this one.
Yes.
But,
great
we'll start
work.
with my update and then I'll hand it over to John to give his as well. And then we can take questions at the end. Okay. So you guys may have heard some of this information at the annual luncheon, but still some impressive numbers for our community. So I'll review some of that and then get a little deeper into our current activity with the program. But As you may now be aware, as of 2023, all 3 Central Oregon counties are now part of the Bend-Redmond Metropolitan Statistical Area. That being said, Prineville was formerly a top 10 micropolitan community and now maintains that position as part of the region in the small metro category. Heartland Forward's latest rankings place us as the 8th most dynamic metro. This ranking reinforces the power of strategic, localized economic development. We've continued to see the impact of targeted workforce development, particularly in high tech and clean energy, and the vital role of supporting entrepreneurs through innovation hub efforts and accessible mentorship. Moving forward, we must stay ahead of the curve on addressing housing availability and innovative infrastructure solutions to attract and retain talent. The Central Oregon MSA has once again proven its strength in economic development. According to the Milken Institute's latest rankings for 2025, which analyze key metrics including labor market conditions, job and wage growth, high-tech impact, and access to economic opportunities, our region gained 2 spots this year, securing an impressive 4th place ranking among small metros across the nation. This marks the 9th consecutive year that the MSA is ranked among the top 15 best performing small areas in the country. Drilling down to just Crook County specifically, over the past 5 years, we've achieved a remarkable 52.5% growth in GDP, outpacing both regional and state averages. Notably, even during the challenges of the pandemic, Crook County saw a positive growth rate of 6% in 2020, while other regions experienced negative economic impacts. The increased economic diversity and resiliency have proven effective in the strengthening and adaptability of our local economy. Crook County has been the fastest growing population in the region and state since 2020, with a 9% population increase in that time frame. Even more impressive, our workforce has expanded by 12% in that same period. While the state experienced minimal population and employment growth, Prineville continues to demonstrate significant and sustainable progress. These numbers represent real opportunity for our residents and for our businesses. And this graph from the Oregon Employment Department, yeah, there you go. That shows the Tri-County area, Crook County's growth trajectory from 2020 to 2024 versus the other 2 Central Oregon counties and then Oregon as a whole. The latest Crook County U.S. Census Bureau data illustrates a staggering surge in household incomes with an increase of over 83% in just 5 years. This is the fastest income growth rate in the entire state of Oregon compared to the statewide average of 35% or a modest 2% annual real growth. And then these graphs show the steady increase since post-Great Recession in wages overall, private wages by industry, and then average annual wage by employee. And then the steep incline that has been experienced 2020 on, despite the pandemic losses other areas experienced. Crook County data speaks volumes to the activity experienced in recent years. Median household income spiked from $45,000 in 2018 to nearly $82,000 last year. This growth is a testament to the successful diversification of our economy as we've adapted and expanded beyond our traditional reliance on natural resources. Crook County maintains the 3rd highest average wage in the state of Oregon, behind only Washington and Multnomah counties. I'm sure you've heard about the many housing projects going on with the 700 units coming online that the city has worked on. And then permit growth, however, is not limited to residential activity. Crook County ranked second only to Deschutes County in new building permits for 2024. This trend is mirrored in incoming investment, where Crook County again ranked number 2 in the state. This ranking indicates the significant development and capital flowing into our community. Lastly, for the smart asset data, Crook County earned the number 1 spot in all of Oregon counties for business growth in 2024. And then this next slide gets a little bit deeper into actual activity in the community. So some exciting current stats. We have over 150,000 square feet of industrial and spec space that's been developed in the last 3 years in Tom McCall Industrial Park, which that relates to the prior 2 slides on new building permits, incoming investment, and then also just business growth in general. We have 3 traded sector projects underway in business services, high technology, and renewable energy. We continue to see a high volume of high technology and aviation airport interests, with those being the 2 main industries searching for opportunities locally in 2025. We had 56 project leads in 2024, up 20 from the prior year. And we continue to utilize our digital lead generation to target specific industries, business leaders from those industries and specific businesses in geographic areas to connect with staff on recruitment resources. We also have a small team locally dedicated to bolstering startup efforts and entrepreneur ideation development specific to rural and Crook County through the Crooked River Innovation Collective, which is backed by the Center on Rural Innovation and Meta. We recently completed our top employer list. Oh, sorry, I skipped the enterprise zone part. Enterprise zone activity, so those wrapped up about 2 weeks ago. We work with the local assessor's office on those, but the annual claims were due. So we have 12 current active agreements for 2024. The investment across those 12 agreements alone is over $10.54 billion into our community, and then over 700 jobs, with many of those organizations hiring as well. And then we recently completed our top employer list for 2025. For the press release went out last year, but Crook County maintains a pretty healthy balance of traded sector, tourism, government, education, healthcare, and commercial, with an impressive showing from both our newer industries and traditional wood products employers. Oops, sorry, I flipped those slides, but this shows some projects that we worked on in the past few years. Meta and Apple, those are both move and grow projects since they've consistently been building for the past decade or so. Invenergy, they have 2 existing projects in the community. They provide power for various industry. And then startups, we have Sherp Tech, where wood grain was previously, so they started here and also have grown since then. Home Huddle is a tech startup, and they work specifically with the real estate market, so they've actually pitched at Pub Talk, and have gotten experience at various other industries in physical space here in town. And then Craw USA is at the Freight Depot. They've also grown their employment base quite significantly, and they use the rail in the community. And then Grow, Top Gun Resources, has sited here in the past couple years up in Tom McCall Industrial Park, and they've grown since then as well. Masonite, now Owens Corning, they've been acquired a couple times and have expanded both their workforce and their productivity and equipment there on site, and Buckstop has grown as well here. So we already talked about that. If you go to the next slide, it touches on housing. A lot of times you see with growth in industry, growth in employment, general population growth, that housing prices go up. Ours, however, have actually gone down a little bit. We're currently at $375,000 as a median housing price as of 2025, and we're at $380,000 in 2022 and up to $440,000 during the pandemic. So we've maintained a pretty consistent housing price, and then there's also new housing coming online, so that also stabilizes that. I will now turn it over to John to explain more on a macro level what's going on with EDCO, with the economy, with advocacy, and table setting for economic development, and then we can take questions at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelsey.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, I'm John Stark. I'm CEO of Economic Development for Central Oregon. Thanks for having us this morning. Beautiful drive out to Crook County this morning. With me today, as Kelsey had mentioned, is Greg Lambert. He's a longstanding board member of EDCO's regional program, but also one of the founding members of Crook County Prineville program. And then also in the back, Russ DeBoot, who is a former employee of EDCO, but your fire marshal today. Both Greg and Russ serve on our executive committee and have oversight of our budget. They're here today in support of our request. And I'll have Greg talk a little bit about some of the things that were shared so far here today. So if you go to the next slide, please. So Kelsey's program is backed by a complement of seasoned professionals in marketing, events, membership, entrepreneurship, peers, and a leadership team to help solve problems, add capacity, provide expertise and best practices to support her work in Prineville, Crook County. If you go to the next slide. In addition to that, she's got peers that are doing this same work in other communities, again, providing those best practices and helping solve problems as a region in economic development. Next slide, please. EDCO's funding is derived from public and private sector partnerships. So we're able to stretch your dollar a lot farther here. And I just wanted to mention as well, that dollar is derived from lottery fund monies at the county level that was created in 1984 in the state of Oregon to help fund economic development. So it's still today a large portion, but not the majority of funds that come into the state through lottery proceeds that fund economic development. Our funding mix at EDCO of the $2.1 million budget we have in the current fiscal year is a majority of membership, 37% private sector businesses and some public sector entities that help fund some of the work that we do in advocacy I'll cover in a few minutes. And then public sector contracts that we have to do this work in each of our communities with cities and counties throughout the Tri-County area, and then earn revenue from our events. And then a small portion comes from grants. On the right-hand side of this slide is some of the work that Kelsey's been doing in the private sector side of things. So I'll let her talk a little bit about that to offset some of these public fund dollars.
Yeah, so here you can see that private membership is a little bit lumpy, especially with the pandemic. Obviously, a lot of businesses were experiencing some hardships during that time, so we had a dip there. But we've grown our private membership about 80%, so we try to grow that in tandem with our public contributions to kind of even that playing field. We prefer to be funded privately and through events and things like that, and then complement that with public funding as needed. So you can see it's grown over 80% in the past 5-6 years. We started at 10,000. Now we're just over 25,000 for private membership.
Thanks, Kelsey. Next slide, please. So this slide looks at the budget growth over the last 5 years, but over the last 3 years, the EDCO budget has increased by 31%. Materials, labor costs, medical, dental, vision, benefits, etc., not including departing programs such as the Youth Career Connect internship program or the addition of the Jefferson County program, but about 10% over the last 3 years. PEDCO's expense to EDCO, that's what they pay EDCO to do this work and help support Kelsey, her payroll, her materials, and then some support mechanisms through our staff, has increased by 36% over that same period, in part due to a salary bump as a retention benefit in 2023, where we went back to our partners and said, hey, we'd really like to keep Kelsey around. We've all invested about 5 years of effort into her, and so we passed the hat a little bit to try and counter an offer by, frankly, someone in this community at the state legislature that had attracted her to apply for a position. So we were able to keep her talent here in that effort, and the PEDCO budget through that process increased by 40% over that same time period. Now, Kelsey also plays a role as a senior director for economic development for Central Oregon above her work in the community. EDCO pays an entirety of that additional work. She had a desire to grow within the organization, add new responsibilities, and learn new leadership skills. As senior director, she has a deeper understanding of the best practices in the other communities, has learned more in training others to do this work, and is challenged at different times and different levels by taking on that role. I know that personally because I did the same thing. I was a senior director before becoming the CEO. I had a desire for professional development to grow within my position, and EDCO was able to support me in that, as we have been able to do for Kelsey. This has helped advance her professional development and help retain her talents here at EDCO. Next slide, please. This slide depicts what other jurisdictions are contributing to EDCO. The column on the left is the program contracts that we have. So they're paying for the services to support EDCO. And then on the right-hand column there, that is the contributions over and above program support. So that's generally membership or sponsorship of programs. For instance, the City of Bend sponsors the Bend Venture Conference, whereas Sisters, Lapine, Madras, and Jefferson County are each contributing platinum level investors. So each of the other jurisdictions, except for Culver and Metolius, are contributing to EDCO's regional office beyond their contracts for services, generally in the form of membership, which supports our leadership team to oversee our people, and then advocacy at the state level. Next slide, please. So today what we're asking for is a $10,000 increase in program support for fiscal year 26 and a $10,000 platinum level membership level to bring the city in line with others. That's the membership benefits. And so I can talk to you offline about a full packet on this, but this outlines the benefits at each level. We'd like you to come in at platinum, but you do have some other choices that you can make there as well. And what this supports, so on the program increase, this supports wages, employer taxes, all the benefits. Local office support, so you, for the 50,000, if you increase by 20,000 and 10,000 in private members, or excuse me, private, if you invest 10,000 in program support and 10,000 in membership, it becomes 70,000, but that gets added to that private sector membership so that we can stretch that dollar further. What you get for that is Kelsey full-time. You get a complement of the leadership team, 3 other leadership people, but you also get marketing support, event support, venture catalyst support, as well as event support. So when Kelsey has a luncheon, the EDCO people are there to help support that luncheon. So a complement of 1 full-time FTE in the community, but backed by about 4 other FTE. So your dollar goes a long ways in that support. EDCO Platinum level membership supports advocacy, regional leadership, member benefits, a statewide network of economic development professionals, and industry and market intelligence. Next slide, please. So it was mentioned earlier that we were lobbyists. We're not lobbyists. In fact, we don't lobby. We're not in the Capitol. We're not walking door to door, shaking hands. Occasionally we'll stop by to talk about some of the things from an economic development perspective that we're interested in, but I haven't been in the Capitol yet this year. We do testify, however, and we testify on behalf of the business community. So we're here to support traded sector industry development. That's what you signed on to, so we can help create jobs in this community. Jobs for residents, capital investment that becomes property taxes that helps support this great community. And so we're not lobbyists, but we do advocacy and we do testify. On the left-hand side is our legislative agenda, the things that we're supporting generally in this session. On the right-hand side is some of the bills we've supported or opposed. Our current bill tracker has about 62 bills on it today. We've testified or sent letters in on about half of those. We do have a legislative committee that has oversight. We have publicly elected officials, city staff on that, as well as private sector businesses to help guide our decisions in that. We always do a litmus test. So if we're concerned about something, we work very closely with AOC and LOC to make sure we're in line with what counties and cities are doing. And we often call those cities and counties. I was on the phone with Eric Kanzler yesterday with the City of Bend, just checking in on a land use decision to make sure he was in the same place. Urban renewal is another one of those. We're always checking in what local communities are saying. Next slide, please. We also leverage that statewide leadership at the level of the OEDA, Oregon Economic Development Association Policy Council. I'm on that committee, so we help guide some of the decisions by the Oregon Economic Development Association in terms of what we want to support. But you also see broad-based membership there from utilities as well as AOC, LOC, and our state economic development organization, Business Oregon. Next slide, please. So some of those table setting work looks like this. So grid development, which is important to our economic development. We're supporting a new line coming up from the south with Pacific Power, a 500 kV line that will enhance capacity in the region. We market properties such as Juniper Ridge that has come online. We also market properties here through Oregon Prospector. We're involved with the Business Response Network, which is a team of professionals that go out and solve problems for businesses at the state workforce level. And then we're involved in air service development. We brought DFW online here through a 5-year process to try and get American Airlines to serve that route. And we brought PDX back with 3 daily flights, which helps our people get out to see the world and our businesses to get their customers in to see how their products are built. Next slide. Additional table setting efforts include working with Oregon Business and Industry. We were a no vote on Measure 118, which would have been a huge headwind in our economic development. We build customized training programs and partnerships with our educational systems. And then we're involved in industrial lands. And so that's a picture of some land that Jefferson County and Madras are interested in bringing into the UGB to serve some industrial opportunities. And then additionally, the climate protection program at DEQ, which would have created some hardship in the natural gas arena. We were testifying there as well. So those are some examples of some of the advocacy work with the premise of how do we continue to create jobs for our youth and for our communities throughout Central Oregon. Next slide, please. I think that wraps it up. I want to call Greg up. He's one of the people that has oversight on our budget and our wages as part of our executive committee. And so he wanted to say a few comments. Thanks for being here, Greg. I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, John. I've had the privilege of being the Crook County representative to the Regional EDCO Board for I think it's 18 years now. I'm in my 17th or 18th year, and was a past president. And I'd like to just address compensation. It was raised a while back. And 41 years ago, I started a staffing business here in town. And I've been involved with finding good people for good companies and vice versa. And back in 84, the average mill worker start was about $5.85 an hour. Now it's between 17 and 20. And if you try to go down to 14, you're not going to get even the second tier workers. And so.
Can everybody hear him? Get a little closer, please.
And so there is no, I'm totally unaware of any pressure that we need to give Kelsey a raise this time. That has nothing to do with it. But I would just ask that people consider that if we want the best, and we have one of the best, we have to be able to show them the appreciation so that when somebody does come knocking on their door, they're less likely to give that some entertainment. So that's just what I wanted to bring up, that we're not being lavish by any means. We're not giving pay raises that aren't earned. Like you can see from our presentation, we're one of the best in the nation, and that doesn't come easily. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, so no question, your dollars have gone a long ways to create some GDP and population growth here. And so we're accomplishing the mission you asked us to set out and do. And with your great leadership here, we don't do this alone. So we're in this together, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, just wanted to kind of hear what, obviously I'm partial to Kelsey, and I see what she does every day, and I know you. So I generally know what you do, but I think it would be good for the public to hear what those dollars would do at the regional level for Crook County and for Central Oregon.
Yeah, I'll say this job was a lot easier when I got here in 2008. We didn't have a lot to do because my friends were all, you're going to go create jobs in the middle of a Great Recession, but things started humming along in 2009. And most of our work at that time was centered around creating opportunities for business, building infrastructure so that these businesses have a place to land. And then over the next 10 years, we did that. We had the strongest economy in some of our best years, 2016 to 2019. But what changed in the world was people got really concerned about a lot of things. And publicly, things changed a lot. And a lot of headwinds were created to economic development in Oregon. And so a lot of our work today has changed to advocacy, staving off some bad policy that won't allow our businesses to grow in the state. There's a bill that's coming up this week that's going to raid workers' compensation. Oregon has some of the best workers' compensation rates on this side of the country. It's one of the last toeholds we have as a competitive nature in Oregon, because we've set further regulations on businesses. We've added further taxes on businesses, and now we're the number 48th state in the nation. Measure 118 would have taken us to 50. So a lot of our work is centered around advocacy. I do most of that work for the organization so we can keep Kelsey in this community working with those businesses. And I would say that since 2019, we've had to do more on this front. In the last 2 years, we've done more and more, and I'm trying to do more and try and support that so we can stave off some of this bad regulation. So what will that money go towards? It'll go towards supporting Kelsey staying in this community, but also making sure that our businesses that are here in Crook County have a place that they can grow and flourish.
No, the two of them are looking at me, okay?
I already did one.
Oh, I see,
Your
okay.
turn, Commissioner Hemrick.
So, what measurable outcomes or deliverables can you point to over the past year that resulted directly from our county's local investment?
Well, I would say definitely the GDP growth is tremendous. You lead the state. I don't think there's a community that invests in economic development that wouldn't aspire to these numbers. 52.5% over the last 3 years. And that's because there was intentional investments in this community in economic development to create an environment and capacity in a person to serve it. And so you're already leading the state. I want to maintain that. I want to see that trajectory continue to grow. And what you have is you have a lot of developers right now that are developing up on top of the hill, new buildings for companies to come in. Bend has become very expensive. You have a competitive advantage. You've already seen some advantages in that space. The same goes for housing. So we'd like to see that trajectory continue. We had talked about the population growth. Those are houses, those are property taxes, those pay for services in this community. So those measurable outcomes come at the state level, but also in this local community. We have mentioned the legislative agenda. I'm happy to ship your report on the end on the outcome of those bills.
Thank you.
So everybody knows about Facebook and Apple, right? That was a big win bringing those here. Because what you're talking about is not those companies. You're talking about the construction companies and the different companies that are in, the living
Living wage.
What's that industrial spot next to BTL?
Oh, the McCall Business Park.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I don't know, has anybody driven up there recently and seen all the different companies that are part of that? It's pretty amazing. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think you've got two anchors in the two companies that you mentioned. But because of the jobs that are created by that, other companies can form and serve the growing population that's here. Plus, you have ancillary operations that support those centers with contractors that are either providing electrical or lighting or products into those centers. But not just that. You have companies like SherpTech that want to be in a place that's more affordable than Redmond or Bend. And so you have a competitive advantage. Your dirt's a lot cheaper. You're 40% of the cost of dirt up in Redmond, and you're quite a bit less than what's happening in Bend today. And I think you have a brand in this community that people have a desire to be a part of. And I think that a lot of businesses are coming here because the labor force has grown because of some of those operations. And so you add labor force and affordability, and you've got the mix. Now all you do is figure out the transportation. And you've got a freight depot. So yes, I think you've seen tremendous growth here. Kelsey had mentioned over 100,000 square feet being built up there. And I think there's more coming. I have a personal relationship with one of the developers that's doing that because I worked pretty hard at trying to get him up to Redmond, but he settled in Prineville first. And so he's building a lot of opportunity up there for you. And we're going to fill those buildings, and that's what Kelsey's job is to do.
So we've been kind of fortunate in Crook County because, we've had Caroline, that she was with Edco, and Russ was with Edco, and so they're great help. They're great support. They know it as and Kelsey's been doing a wonderful job. So I when we go to paying for things you kind of like to know where your money's going. So there are a lot of competition for people coming in and wanting to build. And so how are we, how are you gonna manage others that come in the regional area that we don't lose something from Prineville going to other, going to other areas?
Oh,
How are you
mean the
going to
future?
represent Prineville, Crook County?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. So I'm always speaking on the region's behalf and collectively. And this community is an engine to the state's economic development. So I want to continue to add fuel by keeping top talent here. And so that's why we've grown Kelsey in her role. We've invested alongside of this community in Kelsey to retain her talent and grown her within the position. But we also can't, keep her from looking at, what the next thing is. And that's, as a leader, that's one of the best things that a leader can look for is somebody that grows big enough that they can go on and take on a bigger role. But I can say that we have a system that works and that we're able to, if not able to retain the talent, we're able to train people on how to do this important work. I came from workforce development. I started in 2008. I've had a career in economic development since. And it's a unique job. It's a job that requires a lot of different skills across a broad spectrum of activities. And so we have a training system that works. Kelsey and I designed that system. And so we can use those inputs to both retain these people and attract new ones. That said, I always speak on behalf of our region. And our door is always open. My phone call with Commissioner Crawford this morning is like, you can call me anytime. This is my personal cell, and I answer it all night. And so if there's ever a challenge, you can call us or an opportunity. If you'd like us to get behind a bill that you're backing, call us. We have a committee that meets weekly later this afternoon on Wednesdays, and you're welcome to join us on any of those calls. We have a commissioner on that committee. We have a city manager and several city councilors plus private sector. So we're always advocating from a regional perspective for all of our counties and all of our cities. I hope that answers your question.
Pretty much. I don't want to clip Kelsey's wings, but I want to make sure we have good representation here still.
You bet. That was my entire premise when I 3 years ago called Seth and said with the hat, let's find a way to keep this person here.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any more discussion?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
So let's see what. So we have checked with, what's your next process? We've checked with accounting and we have budgeted these funds to move forward. If
We have
decide to.
not at this point necessarily budgeted the funds. I think if this is an ask that you want to pursue, I would recommend just as budget officer this year, as we're kind of in the middle of budget, that we find an opportunity to approve this request in whatever form you guys approve it without having to dig deeper into other resources. So it may come at some sort of cost, I guess, to some other service or contract that we have, but I think we should look for an opportunity where we don't maybe see the same value we see in what EDCO is asking for today. So that would be the approach I would take if you guys move forward with this ask today, just to be conservative with our budget as we go forward through that process.
And we may elect to come in at a little less than what is being proposed also, and we can visit about that with budget committee. Budget. So
Sounds good.
sound good?
So this is coming out of our lottery funding. That's the impression I'm getting?
I don't
That
believe
this
it's
comes
coming-
out of lottery funding?
I don't believe we
A
fund.
portion of it
EDCO.
does currently,
Okay.
but I think what Will's saying is
And
if we want to move forward, we need to find the right place
okay.
to take it out of.
So so basically
that
what
through
we
the
should do
budget
is make a
process.
recommendation to the budget committee that we are willing to.
I'll look for I'll work with our budget team and then make a recommendation to the budget committee in terms of where that money comes from.
Okay. So do you need a direction from us? Or
No, I think just right now, I think you guys need to decide on what level you want to support EDCO. And I just want to just kind of clarify. So my understanding of the ask, and John, feel free to clarify, but there's kind of three asks.
Yes.
There's the 10,000 for the local program, the 10,000 for the platinum membership, and then kind of a commitment to a 3 to 5% increase annually going forward.
Yes, yes. Okay. Okay,
Yeah, Will's correct. 10,000 as a platinum level membership and 10,000 for program support, but then through the budget process and ongoing consideration, depending on what your budget would support, of 3 to 5%. We can discuss that each year as part of the process in terms of our needs. That's what we do in the other communities. But I know this is a tough decision to make. Commissioner Crawford and I sat at Ways and Means the other night, and it was 95% asks for funds. There was very little conversation about economic development that helps pay for what those things fund. And so I know you have a tough decision before you, but what we're asking for is a renewable resource that creates property taxes and income in our communities. So I understand you got a tough decision, but thank you for taking time to consider it.
I would entertain a motion to move forward with proposal.
Is part of that proposal having Will look and see what opportunities there, I would rather have Will look and see what we have and what we can spend before we decide what we're gonna spend.
To have it for a budget allocated on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if the board would prefer, instead of making a commitment here today, I can come back with a proposal that kind of clarifies where in the budget adjustments are being made to fill this request. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Or just through the budget process to work to do as much as we can with knowing that we have a lot of.
I'm comfortable
Right,
with looking at
departments.
the 210s and then, the 3 to 5%, that would be a questionable. So if you want to make a motion in that direction, see how we work with the 210s as far as the budget process, and then the 3 to 5 would be maybe.
So yeah, I'd
What
make a
would be
motion to
considered-
look at the 210s and the feasibility of that, and then once we have that, then we can look at what the opportunities are for the 3 to 5.
I think those are kind of going to be on a yearly
Yeah,
come
Yeah.
to us and
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
CPI or costs up or down, or yeah, that'll be a yearly decision.
Yes.
Like next year.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
We don't have to solve that one today.
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So just
Those are
let's look for
that's the bracket you're
the
working
210s
in.
for this year.
Yes.
But I also know, I was just at Central Health Council and they did a census, and you take the ages and they go like this, and then you get 60 to 74 and it goes like this. And we need to have opportunities for these other ages to be there and to be able to remain here, because I think a lot of our youth want to remain here. And I don't want to look at a 74-year-old doctor or 74-year-old plumber. So we need to have economic vitality here. That's what we need to do. And we need to encourage our youth to want to stay here and have housing and have a job here, because we are a good place to live. And there is a part of me that wants to put a gate at the top of the hill and not let anyone in here, but that's not a very good attitude to have. So I do commend on us having jobs for our youth to stay here and keep the vitality here in our community.
Especially jobs where you can go out, get educated,
Yes, and come back.
and then come back
And
work
bring
here.
that
bring
to
that
our
knowledge.
community and be our little league coaches and our 4-H leaders. And it takes everybody to make the world go round. So, yes. And
When the
so
sawmills died in this town, so did our town, and
Yes. Yes,
we wouldn't be where we are today if
we
we
didn't make
had-
changes.
didn't make changes.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're painful for some, but without it, you wither and die. And a lot of communities around Oregon that are in that position, and we're lucky enough, blessed to be, viable and doing well.
And as you look up the top of the hill, you have industries coming in, but you also have that there's going to be, I think, a restaurant or a convenience store. I mean, and as you bring those in, then you have the other industries that come in that need to take care of. It's all kind of fits into a big puzzle.
Couldn't have said that better myself. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, so yes, so I second your motion.
So are we clear on the motion?
I don't know if we are,
I
but
think, so. I mean, we're
I
gonna
think
look for
so.
the 10 local and 10,
yes. And then the 3 to 5 is kind of,
3 of the 5s next
Is-
year
yeah.
and.
So are we going to approve it subject to finding the funds? So we don't
Finding-
have to come back.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah, you can, maybe just subject to.
Yeah.
budget approval.
Yeah.
I second the amended motion.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve what has been presented on the 10-10, subject to budget, finding the funds from the budget committee. All in favor, say aye.
Hermrick,
Or
aye.
any discussion?
Oh, no
Aye.
discussion.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Hermrick, aye.
Barney, aye. So moved.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Aaron,
Yes.
how are you?
How are you this
Good.
morning, Commissioner?
Good.
For the record, Aaron Boyce with the Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant overseeing the Parole and Probation Division. What I'm here today to ask from the board is for a letter of support for our Justice Reinvestment Grant through the Criminal Justice Commission of Oregon. This is a grant that my division has been overseeing for the last about 8 years now. It's a biennial grant. We apply every 2 years. So we are currently applying for the 25-27 budget cycle for the state. The JRI grant is used to fund our mental health technicians position that works in the jail and in parole and probation, seeing those clients. It also funds a halftime district attorney spot, work on downward departure cases, and it also funds a halftime parole and probation officer to oversee those cases. So that's what the grant funds. We've been successful with this grant over the last or many years, and so I'm looking for an additional letter of support from the commissioners to put onto that grant application, which initial grant application is due on this coming Friday.
Yeah, this is a great program. You run a great jail, and we want to be very supportive of this, and any funds that we can get are always a big help. And thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Totally agree.
I think you do a very good job, Aaron, and I make a motion to approve your letter for the Justice Reinvestment Grant for 25-27.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the Justice Reinvestment Grant supplemental. Any discussion?
No discussion.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Hermrick, aye.
Barney, aye. So moved. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Good morning, Casey.
Good morning, Commissioners. Casey Daly from the Fairgrounds. I'm here to notify you that we have a vacancy in position 7 of the Fair Board. Stanley Flynn resigned last week, and I believe I forwarded that to you. This position term ends 12/31 of 2026. So there's a substantial amount. So this notification will trigger the recruitment of it through the paper. So
Very sad to see Stanley go.
Yeah, he's had a good.
Stanley is gonna focus on Stanley,
Yes.
which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing, but I told him I hope we still get to see him around, because what would we do without a Stanley at the fair?
I think if you go to Wild Ride, you'll see him around.
I also think if you go to Gary's on Tuesday, we'll see him around, so,
Okay.
okay.
He's
thank you.
given a lot over the years.
Yes,
so
he has.
we
Yes, he
appreciate
has.
that.
Okay,
So. Got onto the wrong deal here. Computers. Public hearing. John, ordinance 350.
Good morning, Commissioners. Again, for the record, John Eisler, Community Development Director. Today is the first reading of Ordinance 350 regarding our Crook County Code Flood Damage Prevention Code Amendment. This is a purely legislative amendment, and so we don't have to go through the whole process with the applicants, then those in favor, those against, but it's just a regular public hearing. This will be the first of 2 readings, like our usual ordinances. This has been going on for a while, these code revisions, and our senior planner, Katie McDonald, has done all the heavy lifting on this and definitely deserves all the credit. And so she is going to come up and present for you now. Oh, before you guys get started, I recommend a motion to read by title only. Sorry about that. And then open the public hearing.
Okay, then, so we need the motion first.
Yes.
So I make a motion to read by title only ordinance 350.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to read by title only ordinance 350. All in favor, any discussion?
No discussion.
All in favor, say aye.
Herman, aye.
Barney, aye. So moved. Before the Board of Commissioners on the state of Oregon for the county of Crook, an ordinance amending titles 15 and 18 of the Crook County Code, amending chapters 18.16, use table, removing chapter 15.04 and chapters 18.84, adopting chapters 18.85, flood damage prevention, and declaring an emergency, ordinance 350. So I open the hearing. Is
Okay.
that right? Did I mess up?
No, that
Okay.
sounds great. For the record, Katie McDonald, Senior Planner. Good morning, Commissioners. So today before you have a recommendation from the Planning Commission for updating the development code language within our Crook County Code for development within the mapped special flood hazard areas of Crook County. There's really 3 parts to this. One is an update to our farm use table in chapter 1816, where there's language that was added with the model code update in 2019 specific to irrigation that we would like to remove. That is not a part of state statute. Planning Commission would like to remove that. Secondly is the development standards that are in place for special flood hazard areas in Crook County. The way that the development is regulated is twofold. One is in the planning land use side. The other is the construction methods for development within those areas. Historically, our code has chapter 15, which deals with the structural component, chapter 18, which dealt with the floodplain. Neither of those had been updated with the exception in 2012 when new maps were adopted. So some of the definitions were outdated, some of the references were outdated, and in 2019-ish, the state developed a model code ordinance, and different jurisdictions have adopted that, including the city of Prineville, and it has provided clarity for staff, clarity for folks wanting to develop within those areas. And that's what you see before you is removing the section of code in Title 15 and removing the section of code in Title 18 to then create one spot for folks to look at and find those standards with the updated definitions. I believe we had 2 work sessions at the Planning Commission level and a public hearing. We had representatives from the building department, from our permit tech side, from the planning side. I worked with the city of Prineville to kind of, how has this gone for you all? We worked through some of those more questions at the Planning Commission level, and therefore you have what's in front of you. So if there are any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
I don't have any.
I don't have any. I always like that it's declared an emergency. It's like,
Yeah.
you've got to get this in immediately. Yeah, I always like that part. But anyway, I don't have any at all.
I guess the only thing I would ask, we're not increasing any regulation. We're just following the state rules that
Yeah.
already apply and being clear in the in
The rules.
the rules or in the documents of what those rules are?
There were no additions to what the state had.
It's just clearing everything up and putting it in one spot.
Reorganization of.
Yeah,
existing.
trying to make it clearer for folks because it really is confusing. You have to go to one side of the house for one thing and another side of the house for the other, and it was in two different spots.
Super helpful.
Mhm.
It's great.
Okay. Sounds good, Katie.
So this is the first reading. The next one will be,
The next one will be at least 14 days from now, which is I think at our next county court meeting or Board of Commissioners meeting, but now you would need to open up to public comment if anybody wants to speak on the.
okay.
Okay.
Open and public comment. Anybody for or against? Just want to talk about it.
Don't all rush up at the same time.
You're gonna save yours for the next public?
Remember, it's
Better read up on it. Yeah.
remember, it's an emergency, so.
Okay, hearing none, then nothing further from staff.
So commissioners, what I might suggest is to close the public hearing. And as John mentioned, this will be the first reading, so there'll be another opportunity in about 2 weeks if anyone wants to share public comment at that point.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. The next one will be in 14 days. If you have any, want to share or anything, get hold of community development. Okay, well, now we can.
I'm sorry. Do we have another meeting in 14 days? Okay, so
Be May 7th.
so May 7th,
So
so
yeah, it'd have to be, would be,
least 14 days.
At least
so it'll have to
14
be
days.
May, yeah. It'll have to be the next court meeting, right? The Board of Commissioners.
this is one of those weird months where we have 5 Wednesdays, so
Yeah.
yes, okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Sarah.
thanks for catching my error.
Okay.
All right. Onward. Managers report.
First, I just have a few things for you this morning. I noted this a couple weeks ago, but we are moving forward with geotechnical analysis and going to get a report on the courthouse here shortly. So Commissioner Barney and James Bruce and I met with the construction team yesterday. The project is going to be completed over a couple of days. Okay. God, I turned it off. The project will be happening later in May, and we'll follow up with the impacted departments before that project kicks off. But there will be a drill rig in the back parking lot for a couple days and in the front of the courthouse at one point. So just a heads up that project is moving forward. Also wanted to update board quickly on where we are with budget. So department heads have draft budgets and are reviewing those now. The budget committee is scheduled to meet May 12th and 13th. That should be on your calendars. So that's coming up here in a few weeks. Couple of community and public engagement notes. Later today, there are a couple of open houses for the TSP update. They're both scheduled to be at the Carrie Foster Hall at the fairgrounds. The first one is scheduled for 12 o'clock. And this one will focus on Juniper Canyon alternatives. And then the one scheduled for 6 p.m. this evening will be to review the recommendations for projects to be included in the TSP as a whole. Also coming up next week, we'll have a special board meeting on April 23rd at 5:30 p.m. Representatives from a few state agencies will be here and online to discuss some of the initial findings from the monitoring and sampling work that happened out near the Knife River aggregate pit. So that will happen next week, again on April 23rd at 5:30 PM. And then lastly, just a heads up, we're getting close to wildfire season. So Chief Smith from Crook County Fire and Rescue and I are gonna put an agenda item request on the agenda for sometime in May to discuss the delegation of authority that was signed in 2022, and otherwise kind of informally kick off kind of wildfire season. So we'll have that on the agenda for you guys in the coming weeks. But just want to give you guys a heads up. We might recommend some changes to that delegation of authority to make sure we are getting what we need out of the state when we're having one of those unfortunate emergencies. So that's what I got for you this morning. Any questions?
Good. Thank you.
The only question I had was, we had talked a couple meetings ago when we brought up that the DEQ was coming, that we were going to do that in Carrie Foster Hall. I think we should really, I don't know, I'll ask the folks that are affected. Do you think that a room like this is going to be large enough? Yeah, I don't either. So what's the opportunity to switch it over to Carrie Foster Hall?
I'm almost wondering if we do need to switch it and it needs to go on Zoom, that maybe the Clover building would be a better opportunity.
Carrie Foster Hall presents a lot of challenges with the owls and public meetings and doing things online so the public can view remotely. I forgot to check the capacity sign. It's right there. Does it say 100?
Yeah, it would be so tight in here.
But I mean, could we maybe see if a Clover building can do it, can do Zoom?
Fire marshal say.
Well, Casey just left.
But Clover building can do Zoom, and it's been done Zoom in there. I just don't know if it's available.
Yeah,
We'd have to
Casey
call
just left.
Rebecca.
We would need to, and we're trying to get the notice out tomorrow. And so there's staff is pretty busy today with the TSP, and so switching gears on this. I mean, we could definitely reach out to Casey as soon as it's over and see if it's available. Hopefully, I mean, if it is, then we could.
Why don't we just call him right now?
The other thing we have is Sarah will not be able to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Sarah's not gonna be able to be available.
So we're gonna have to find someone to do that. But like I say, Clover building, you can do it very easily.
Oh, you're on the record, buddy. Let me just take you off. What's are we asking about Carrie Foster or
no? The Clover building
is Rebecca.
23rd at 5:30.
Yeah, but do you do the Clover building, or is that?
No, that's Rebecca.
Okay. All right. I'll call her. Sorry. What have we talked to the school district? I know time is of the essence here to get it out, but I know they have their school board meetings at the school board at the auditorium at some
schools is a lot more difficult to schedule things with, especially at notice, and there's a pretty hefty charge for that, and it's definitely not in our budget to pay for that.
Sure.
The presentation, I want to make sure it's clear that people understand that they're just reviewing kind of what they've seen so far, and then giving an update on the plans for additional testing moving forward. And so it's not a quasi land use hearing. We're not talking about, a lot of different things. And so
but they're going to be willing to answer questions.
Yeah, they'll be there to answer questions. And so
that's what people have is questions.
But yeah, when I get out of here, if I have a minute, we will reach out to Rebecca and try to see if we can schedule this at the Clover building. But again, Carrie Foster Hall is not a good option for a public meeting.
Yeah, and then they have a screen so you could project like this. I mean, it has the capability, technical wise. I don't know how to do it, but I know it has the technology.
I've never set one up there, but we'll try to figure it out. And Hannah Elliott's, she's been recruited to handle the computer for that night.
Yeah, because they have it over here and then they have a big screen and it does it. I just don't know how. I break the printer, so you don't want me.
So I really think, I think Clover building's good. I don't know has everybody back in the corner there been the Clover building? Generally a lot larger room than this.
It has more room. I don't know if they have Zoom capability, but they do have a projector screen and they have all of that.
You are right. The museum would be a good fit too. Yeah.
I mean, the Kroger building would be great, but if it's not available, that might be an option.
Good idea.
That is a very good suggestion. Very good. I never thought about the museum, but you're right. They just did, Steve Lent just did the thing with Central Oregon with the women, and I know they have the screen and stuff. I don't see why they wouldn't maybe have a Zoom. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I do know that the Clover building does have it, so that would
Yeah,
be my first
yeah.
choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And John, probably won't be successful, but it might be worth a call to Katie and see if we could get the jury assembly room.
It's another interesting idea.
I mean, we
we
should
need
have
to-
some rights.
You need to contact IT too to figure out how we
Especially in the evening, right?
Yeah.
take an
Yeah.
owl from one of our locations or figure out how we can get that broadcast.
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion.
So one circumstance we have to confront is those rooms may simply not be available. So what I might suggest, you've indicated that you're concerned that maybe too many people will attend, that this room is not congenial to that. Maybe what I might suggest is you just trust John, trust the staff. I'm sorry, John.
It's a big ask.
Yes. Trust the staff to try to locate a location that might have more room, bearing in mind that it may not be optimal, but we'll try to find something that is larger than this room. And if it happens to be that they're just all booked up, trust us to send out the notice and try to do the best we can under the circumstances.
Okay,
Great idea.
there you go. Perfect.
And I don't think you need a motion for that.
No,
Okay.
no. Okay, we'll trust you, John. Make the
think
best
that-
decision you can under the circumstances.
Can I just ask real quick, the courthouse might be a really good idea, the jury room up there. Do you guys have a preference in order of priority?
I think you
You
can
just
make
wanna
the
trust me to-
decision.
Okay.
I mean, I'm willing to share. I would say the courthouse, Clover building, museum here.
There's 4 choices.
All right. We'll figure it out.
Got to be one open.
How big is the jury assembly room?
It's huge.
Yeah, it'll hold 100 easily. I mean, fire marshal says 100.
Yeah, there's Russ. He's just Russ, you just come and then we're safe. We've got
Take
you.
tickets, and then if you won't let them in, it's your fault, not ours.
Yeah.
The 3 options I think are, my perspective, or just my history of public meetings would be great. The jury assembly room is a beautiful spot. And I think it's got plenty of chairs. Not the parking outside, that's usually like Clover building's fantastic. I've had meetings in there, not the fire district, but just 4-H meetings.
Yeah, yeah.
Large groups, great building. And then the Bow Museum's beautiful.
Yeah.
Overview courthouse.
It's the Justice Center, the new building.
The biggest thing would be a sheriff to be on duty to allow people in and out.
Ooh, that's a good point.
That's your biggest thing. We would have to have a sheriff off, because the other sheriff would be off duty. That would be the only thing with the jury assembly room. You'd have to have him down there doing,
Metal
detection.
detector.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
I know you can, John.
You got it
I know you're-
handled.
You're smart. So there you go. Okay.
Okay, commissioner updates.
Okay, the only thing that I have is today we have our TSP meetings and erring on the side of caution. Seth will be going to the Juniper Canyon one and I will be going to the latter one just because we did not get a public notice out in time. So we would love to be able to attend both of them, but we
All
are,
3 of us.
yeah. So that is how we will be doing it. So, and then when we have other meetings, we will try to get that public notice out in time. So anyway, and that's I probably should have some more, but my mind is blank.
I had a really good ride around with John, myself, and Cliff Bence's office, looking at different options with the new administration. It's looking really viable to find a route through public land, mostly BLM. And if we can find the right route that would help get an extra access for Juniper Canyon, there's a lot of opportunity for the BLM to donate that land to the county at no cost to the county. We just need to identify the right route. And we looked at a couple roads. There was three. One, we ran into a pretty good dead end that may loosen up, but I don't think so. And then two others that I think have really good potential to be able to, for very little cost, at least for land purchasing, be moved forward. And John's going to do a little more research for us and come up with some plans. But I think there's some opportunity on Simpson Road. There's some opportunity on the Flat Rock Road District and a couple of those. And just, again, we've been working on this a long time. It's extremely important. This is kind of the best outcome I've heard from the federal administration when you're talking about using federal land to put together a road for this purpose. So I'm really, really positive about that. Recently, again, working with Cliff Bence's office, we're starting to receive 25% of funds from federal production on federal land. I don't know if everybody remembers back when they used to cut trees here, we would get 25% of the federal timber sales. And that's really stopped because they do stewardship contracts, and those don't allow for that dollars to come back to the county. By working with Bence's office, they've been having conversations with the Forest Service, and they're doing a short-term fix. So we're already receiving checks. We will receive a check soon for 25% of the activity at the Ochicos. That's not a lot right now, but as things continue to expand and the Trump administration cuts more trees, we're hoping to see that number grow. And at the same time, the Benson administration is going to start working to find a long-term fix for that and not just leave it up to the Forest Service and make sure that there's something in law. So that should be a really big win for our community. And then there was some power lines that they're talking about up in Powell Butte. And I think there's an opportunity for us to weigh in. I know I've talked to a lot of community members and they would like to see those power lines follow the current route. And I think it's important that we help those community members and weigh in and back them up on that.
Which power lines?
These new addition, remember they came and talked to it?
Oh, the new ones that
The
are
new
going around.
additional power lines, and there's a bunch of them that will just,
They kind of are over on the edge.
they kind of cut through a bunch of areas that don't have power lines right now. And I always think when you have a route already there, that you've already kind of screwed it up already, you might as well
Keep them in the same
keep
place.
them in the same area. And so I think it would be, I've heard from quite a few community members that that's something that they would like to see done. So I think if you're okay with me working with Will and coming up with something for that.
Yep.
And then as far as the SRS, they're on hiatus, but Ben's is doing a good job. And
Yeah.
once the hiatus for Easter's over, we need to send a letter to the majority because they want to now do the SRS dollars for 4 years instead of 2 years. So after next week, we need to send another letter to ask for our SRS, our secure rural school funding. So hopefully.
Yeah. And it
We've
sounds.
sent a
it
bunch of
sounds
letters.
Very positive.
Yes, we
And it
sent a bunch of letters, but we
Can't-
need to send some more. Go
Can't
yes.
give up now.
No, we sent a bunch.
That-
We'll send some more.
Goes to our roads and our schools and all those things
Yeah.
that used to get money when we used to cut trees. So
They told us quit with Ben's. He's
Yeah.
working for it. Start with the other guys. So we're starting with the other guys.
I'm good.
Okay, the only thing I have is that the other day when we were, going around doing for the geo test, we're talking with facilities, they're going to come in and remove a lot of the vines and things that are hanging from the courthouse and growing into the wood and causing problems. And even in the areas where that isn't covered up, you notice, well, we have a new justice center because we have problems with the courthouse that need to be fixed. And we have an overall cost to fix that, which is not possible right at the moment. Which includes wiring and HVAC and, and stabilizing the ground and the building and things. But I would like to just continue a little bit and have, a small inspection of it. I have letters from throughout the years of different problems and locations in the facility. I'd like to get those verified and kind of come up with a fix-it list.
Sure.
That we can just spend minimal amount of money, but make it possibly safe and to move into. And so I'd like to have that, get someone to continue this expansion of checking things.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
You need an action on that?
I don't think you need a motion
No.
to try to get a list of items to fix in the courthouse. I mean, the action item will be, okay, once you have the list, what do you do about it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I guess the thing will be to expend some funds, and I don't know what that is yet to get that inspection done, so.
Okay.
We'll come back when.
Okay.
When we have that number.
And remember that you have independent contracting authority up to a certain dollar value. So if it's below that dollar value, it doesn't need a motion by the board.
Okay.
But whenever we find out what it is, I'm sure it will be lower than that, so, but,
Okay,
so they're aware.
perfect. Yep, we definitely need a list. I hope
didn't-
not,
I
because
didn't hear you.
I don't think those vines are doing that rock any good at all, so.
When we want to kill grasshoppers.
Yeah.
But
I do want you to know the grasshoppers are not out yet in Paulina, so we're ready for them, but they just won't cooperate and come out. We've got the plan, though.
All right, that updates on that. We'll go back to public comment.
It's okay, Julie. What would we do without you and Adam, huh?
I just have a question / comment, I guess. So I think it's great, that Kelsey can get funding to get a pay raise, because we all work to make more money, because that's why else would you work, right? But I'm just curious why the council will entertain the feasibility of that, but will not even entertain the feasibility at any point in time of looking at water testing or a geology study for the mess that's been made.
so again, you guys go ahead if you'd like.
No, go ahead, Seth.
So again, it's that third party. We need to have somebody, and that's why we've been pushing for this entire time. And I think we've gotten a lot more than $20,000 for your neighborhoods for testing from the state.
But it's taxpayer money too, correct?
Yeah, no, I
It's from
agree.
the
Yeah.
State, not
From the
from the
state.
county that gave the CUP who didn't follow through
Sure.
to make sure that the CUP was being followed.
Yeah.
That's the hangup, I think. Like the county has many complaints of different things where the CUP was not followed, still not willing to pull the CUP. The county is the one who
Not able.
can pull the CUP. We went over this multiple
Yeah.
times, but you won't even look at trying to help fund this. But we sit here meeting after meeting, and multiple times the budget is considered for various things like picnic tables or pay raises or different things, but it's an instant no when we ask for help.
I'm sorry you feel that way, because I don't think that's what we've been doing.
I don't think I'm the only one that feels that.
Yeah,
way.
no, that's fine. But I'm sorry for everybody who feels that way, because I think we really have been going above and beyond working at the state level. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to call out other elected officials that have other jobs that work with the state, because those are the agencies that you should be working with. But I don't think we should be.
Permit, and you
Yeah.
guys are responsible for that permit. And when that permit is not followed, you are responsible to shut that down, and you're not. And I know this is for the 23rd, but I'm just.
Yeah.
I know, but I actually think if you looked at the staff time that has been devoted I think you would be shocked at the amount of money the county has spent on this problem in staff time. I agree.
there's-
I don't
I
agree.
agree. I agree. I get it, Julie. I really do get it. But I mean, staff time that we have devoted to this problem is immense. But again, you have to have a legality, and we don't have that legal edge to go forth.
But we do if we get the testing that we need.
Which we've,
Yes,
which we've leveraged from the state.
yes.
Yes. Well, but it's still, yeah, because that's not something we handle. It's not a county. No, I agree with it. I don't dispute that, but I'm saying once it goes into geological and water situations, those are state agencies, and
Goes to a
that's,
higher, and they should be the ones.
they are the ones that need to handle that.
Geology and water and all.
Potentially.
But if you
Potentially.
read that, if you read that CUP and you read the conditions of that conditional use, it says in line 4 or 5 or whatever, the permits need to be granted by those state agencies. And that's their job, is they needed those permits granted. And that was their job to get those permits granted, and they should have been legally done. So that was part of those conditional uses, is that they should have been granted. And it goes back to those state agencies. And that is our faith as the county, when we put that in their conditional use permit, that those were granted and they followed that.
When they hit water, what happened?
Then Dagami and DEQ should have come into action, because that was put in our conditional use permits. Those were part of the standards that we put in that they were to follow. So that.
Let
was
John
part
kind
of
of
it.
weigh in on
Yeah.
more of the technical.
That was
Again,
part
I don't,
Or whatever, and
I
the,
wish it was under the county and we could weigh in and we were the ones that had the ability to fix it.
because it comes back.
Sometimes in government, you don't have the power to.
And I'll bet you in staff time, we have went over $20,000 in staff time.
John, do you want to weigh in?
Well,
I'd like to hear from you first. If I have a choice.
Yeah, so I was,
And then Dick, you do need to say your name, because there are people on Zoom that deserve to know who's talking.
so again, John Eisler, Community Development Director for the record. I've talked about this before. I think I talked about this last time I was here. So the groundwater is the exclusive jurisdiction of the state. We do land use approval. When it implicates groundwater, it's on the state agency's plate. There's a process for this to work. In my personal opinion, not speaking on behalf of the county, if the testing that would be done by Newton would be one independent expert's opinion. The testing is being performed by DEQ. They have the direct authority to change things immediately if they come to certain conclusions. If Jim Newton comes to certain conclusions, there's still a long road ahead of anything actually coming out of that or being proven correct. And so we have a process now. We're in the middle of the process. We have many state agency experts looking at this very closely, spending a lot of time on this. And in my personal opinion, I think the best course of action is to stay the course. And we can have those discussions on the 23rd when that will be the focus of the meeting. But that's my 2 cents.
So this is Dick
Say,
Zimmerly.
okay, thank you.
That's all right.
Because I mean, we do have to,
Yeah, no,
because
I
we do
get
have the
So-
people there.
So this is the Dogami file on the Stafford bid. Similar, it includes the CUP, was done in 2007 or 8 by the county. And it says in the conditions, all requirements of the state of the Oregon Department of Geology and Mineral Industries and the DEQ are to be adhered to.
Exactly.
And
that's-
made sure that they were adhered to, because in 2022, a review by Dogami said nothing had been adhered to. The violations are rampant. Why haven't you guys stepped up and said you haven't adhered to?
Don't you think that Dagami should step up and do that?
Says
Because
the
it's,
county has a job to make sure they are adhered to. If they're not, it seems to me like the county.
read to me where it says the county is supposed to check them, because it seems to me the state agency should be the one that's
There's the
adhering to them.
problem.
They rule over us. So why are they not, if they're saying it's not adhered to and they have the ability to shut it down immediately, step up to the plate.
But the conditions that the county put on it says that you're to see that if they're not adhered to, it seems like you have the authority to suspend.
Then I'll throw that back on Will and John.
That's exactly what we said in the town hall meeting, was that it is the county's responsibility. The state cannot. And it was, am I right? I mean,
You're right.
I stood up and asked, and it was back and forth, and it was pointed out that the county is the one who can pull the permits, not the state.
You can suspend it. So it's like.
That's a question for you guys.
State, the county.
Yeah, let John weigh in on this, because I know that's what the state says, but that's why we hired an outside counsel to do a deep legal dive of what our legalities
Yes.
were. Again, spending dollars, which are well-spent dollars, because we want to take care of you and come to
Yes.
an
That's
end to
right.
this
Yes.
for everyone.
And we were told we were correct in everything we have done.
Yeah.
Like I say, we have spent money.
And effort and time. And
Yes.
I'm sure from your guys' view, we just sit up here and talk all the time, but that's not really what happens. I mean, we're out, you come, you tell us your concerns, we take those concerns, we pass them on to the state. We hire outside counsel to verify or not verify the misinformation that DEQ says. And because we've proved that it's not correct. And so I'll let John speak to that.
So this is obviously a very complicated, nuanced issue that's very hard to understand, even if you spend a whole lot of time digging through the legalities of it. But the question presented at the town hall was specifically who can pull the conditional use permit. That was the question that was lodged. Greg answered that's a county issue. I responded that is correct, but they need to understand they're also operating under DEQ permits. They are operating under a Dogami operating permit. That's how the process works. I believe that condition of approval is if Dogami comes in and says you guys violated our operating rules because they handle the operations of the day-to-day site, and they come in and fine them, then that's when we step in and say, here you go, there's a violation of the conditional use permit. One of the issues is there was at the Woodward site a long time ago, there was that DEQ violation, but we did not get notice of that until many, many years later. And so that has been rectified where if something happens now, we will get notice of that immediately. And then we can step in and do something like that. But we aren't the ones to step in and tell Dogami what their rules are when they break them or when they don't break them. That's Dogami's job. It's their rules.
Right, but you guys could pull the CUP, which would stop it. Right?
The last time I was here, I said we could pull the CUP, but that's not the end of the road. So if we pull the CUP, it would be the start of a very long, protracted process where we would ultimately probably get reversed.
Because DEQ and Dogami aren't weighing in. If they were to weigh in and say, this issue is because of this, then it would put us in a position where we could then take that information and move forward.
Yeah, they need to back us up.
But
and they're not
until they make that finding or not make that finding, then we're in limbo. And that's why, again, we've been pushing so hard on the state to get this testing going, to fund that testing. And at a parallel time, we're also looking at other options if we were, what we could do with the powers that we have today.
And when you're looking at EDCO, we're seeing if we have the money in our budget. We did not do that with you. We automatically said, we're going forth and doing this. So again, we gave you guys carte blanche. So there's a difference here. So I want you to look at that. We may not have the money in our budget to go forth. And that will maybe hurt the vitality of the county. But again, we have spent a lot of money that you're not realizing that we haven't really put in a checkbook register and added up.
And I guess we
And
don't
we-
realize it because we don't see any change.
And I agree with
Problem
you.
on our end,
And,
we see no.
and I think if we had a
On both
ledger,
of our ends.
I think if-
promise you, we don't like this any
and
more than
I
you
think
do.
if we had a ledger, we'd all be surprised at what we spent, but we don't. And maybe that's a good thing that we don't have a ledger. But yeah, and I agree with you. But again, if they would back us up, it would be wonderful.
And
But we
again,
don't have
that's, I just, like I said, I recently had a dinner with the Secretary of State of Oregon, and his job is to audit different state agencies. And I and myself and multiple people brought that up.
That was who we decided would be a really good audit.
Yeah, that seems like that would be a really good place for them to look and see where they're getting their dollars, who they're working with, all those different things. And again, I'm not sitting here saying it's going to happen.
Right.
But again, that's the kind of stuff we're working on behind the scenes when we have the opportunities to have those conversations.
I hope that with this possible UGB expansion, that you guys are really thinking about this scenario before you, if it gets to your level, before you approve more mining in this farmland area, because it could be, you know, hopefully it wouldn't be, but it could be
Yeah.
just like this, and
And-
nobody wants this.
And the biomass thing has come up, but this isn't, but we have not had the UGB thing come to us yet. That's a different thing. And I agree, you know, the city has to solve its own problems first. And then when they come to us, that's going to be something that I'm going to really, really study. And I totally, you know, understand your side, and I'm going to have to look at all sides, but I've kind of kept that over here to the left because it hasn't come to me yet. And I don't want to get involved in any of it and look at it with a very fresh, you know, thing. And like Will and I tomorrow are going to Salem. We're going to AOC County College, and we're going to be with 37 other new commissioners and stuff. And we go to class from 8 in the morning till 7:30 at night. And then we go to the bar and have cocktails. And I'm very curious to say, hey, do any of you guys have a biomass in your county? Tell me your experiences. And it'll be wonderful to just kind of ask that question and see what people say, you know, but like I say, I'm just kind of kept that over here because I don't want to know anything about it until it comes to us. But I agree with you. And we do need to protect our EFU land. And I totally agree, but I'm not even on that page yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, and thank you for, please continue to come.
Hey, what would we do without you guys? What would we do?
Yeah.
There you go. Come on, Adam. What would we do without you? And hey, you're our only cowboy hat. So
Sit in the background and I make sure everybody else has their say. And I'll have my say last.
okay.
So this kind of goes back, and I'll talk about the biomass. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on it.
Okay.
But what thing about farmland is shouldn't be rezoned to heavy industrial, because what they do is when they do that, that land that they actually mined already will not get reclaimed when it comes heavy industrial. And I've heard that they're going to try to expand. Let's say that nothing happens with biomass. They're going to come to the county, expand, that place is almost mined out. They're going to expand. Well, if they are going to if they're going to expand, they should be required to reclaim that property, because look at what's going on over at Woodward's across the street. They didn't do a very good job of reclaiming what they could right there. So it's an expanse, and they should be required to do that if it even gets to that point right there. But going back to the heavy industrial, because of that, by going to the city meetings and listening to the folks that are there, the mayor and all that stuff, really don't have an idea what biomass really means. It sounds really good. The propaganda goes out, we're going to clean the forests. What they're not telling you is that most of this forest here, you're not going to feed that thing 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. They're going to bring stuff in from everywhere else, wherever that is, and it's in the contracts. They hire a consultant that actually works for the company that actually builds these things and actually makes contracts for this biomass to come in from somewhere else. So here you got a salesman telling you what to do. They're not telling you all the other facts about what that is, but you will have, for every action, there's a reaction, and you're going to have problems with the steam plant. And that's exactly what that thing is. They're even bringing in urea to inject. I listened to his spiel, and it's true, to try to clean up that air. They're going to bring urea and inject it just like you do in your diesel engines now to try to clean that up. So toxins. They're telling you can't see anything come out of a smokestack. What you don't see is probably the stuff that's going to kill you. Because that's the really nasty stuff. And they talk about scrubbers. What do they do with all that? There's a lot of stuff. And then moving the power. They don't really understand the power system, even the council members. I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I worked for the power system for 41 years between two utilities. So I kind of know what goes on over there. So whatever they're getting fed, if it does come out in the future, do some study into it, but not from a consultant's view, DEQ's view. There's a lot of documentation from other areas and all that. So I thought I'd share that because it is propaganda right now. I wrote the stuff down.
Okay.
So a lot of, John already answered kind of some of the questions on the process because they didn't know the process, who it goes through first, which is the city. But the city is also having to put in for a permit for this biomass in order for them to actually go through this whole spiel right there. So they are working on the permit. So I gotta ask this question. I'm not trying to point people out. There's no nice way to even ask this question. But what I have heard is that Mr. Crawford has been in contact, and he can answer to it, with the state government to help push the DEQ permitting process on this biomass plant. And then hearing today that you own property in that, it almost seems like a conflict of interest if it is true. I'm not trying to put you.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to answer it.
Yeah.
So when I was pushing that, I wasn't aware that it was going to this place. When I had those conversations, what I understood, it was going to go over on another property. And as soon as I found out that they were talking about this property, I've stayed out of it completely.
Okay.
And so I do like the idea of a biomass. I'm interested to hearing more. I agree with you. We need to do a more in depth. But as soon as I found out that the expansion was going to be in an area where I own property, then I stepped back. And my property, my wife and I's property is already in the UGB. So it wouldn't really, it's not going to actually change the zoning of my property. It will just, I just believe that the fact that they're moving things in that direction, it's best for me to just stay out of it, because I think that there's nothing worse than people that get elected and try and use their position to move things forward that would increase value in their own personal property.
Yeah,
So,
that's an ethics thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
I work for the government. I had to
no.
do all that stuff and make sure I didn't make any decisions on anything that I
Yeah.
actually was involved in personally and on that. But
So-
your property, I think, is what they said in the council meeting, is they're looking at rezoning your property or having, so it's not, they're talking about a buffer between the residentials and all that, and I'm assuming yours might be in there. They are talking about this would be heavy industrial, but they might rezone this, just stuff when you join, go to the
Sure.
meeting. So it'd be nice if
Yeah, no.
if you were interested, you might want to find out what they're trying to do to your property.
Yeah,
As-
but again, I think even me showing up and asking those questions would be, I think I just need to completely stay out of it. I don't think it's fair for me to weigh in whatsoever.
Okay. I think that's it, but I think that has to have a lot of look into the biomass. It's a steam generator. It pollutes. This place has an inversion layer. Even getting up this morning, you could see the hazy from people burning and all that. I know it was a few years past in the city where they didn't want you to have wood stoves or fireplaces anymore because DEQ came in and said how bad it was, and all of a sudden it's better. Guess what? When this thing is burning 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, in an inversion layer, you're going to get it, and you're going to get plenty of smog. Because I lived in places where you couldn't see a 10,000-foot peak a few miles away from you when that smog came in. So, and the stuff that you can't see is the stuff that's really bad for you and stuff. So whatever they tell you, do your research, because there's a lot of stuff on there from DEQ, from other plants. Good. When you guys go to that meeting in Salem, ask some of those other counties like Eugene and the problems that they've had over there and all these other areas and stuff. But it sounds good to clean up our forest, but you're not going to only clean up yours. You're going to be cleaning up everybody else's, and then the citizens and the people in this community are the ones that are going to pay for it.
I just wonder if the environmentalists from Bend are gonna let you touch these forests.
Who knows? That's going to see. But anyway, I think what was really good today about the meeting, though, because we talked about it at the last meeting, is you know, things hit the docket and then all of a sudden we got 30 days to talk about it or see it or whatever.
No,
I
and
think
I,
what we talked about today is actually until it comes into your door, it's to your
Oh,
door.
because
We have it
you
there.
do, you go to work, I mean, I get it, and then it's just like in Paulina. 750 feet in Paulina don't tell very many people much. I totally get the 750 feet, and I totally get when you're a family and you go to work every day and you got to help the kids with homework and everything else, you don't know. And I totally have been there, done that, understand.
And I appreciate what John said about their site. The county site does need to change their site is hard to work through right now, but if you change it, like he said, and then you're gonna
Have
actually
a
talk
little
about,
informational.
these are on the docket or a little
Yeah.
more information,
Yeah.
so some of the citizens at least will know, because you'd be surprised going to that city meeting, how many people didn't know this was gonna get voted on, including myself. And it's a big surprise, and it would have got voted, I could almost tell you, it would have got voted in if all the folks didn't show up, and then they actually postponed the meeting, and now I heard it's postponed till May 13th. With another.
So that the
to
mayor
talk
can
about
be there,
this.
but there was a lot of frustration because they had worked on it for all this period of time and no one knew about it. And now that people knew, but again, like I say, you go to work every day and you just, it's getting the information out there.
Yes, I was at the hardware store. I talked to people there, people I knew or whatever, and said, did you know about this biomass thing? And I go, no, send me this, send me the info. So here's somebody living in town doesn't even know, and there's got to be a better process out there. But I
Yeah.
appreciate what the county's going to try to do and make it a little more informative, and hopefully the city would do the same thing.
Well,
Thanks,
and I'm
Adam.
not saying we're always the best at getting it out either,
And
so,
I'm here to watch you guys.
okay, you just watch us.
Thank you.
I'll have to
Yep.
call you whenever we do something, Adam.
You got my number.
Okay.
This goes to Adam. So we are still waiting for planning commission or pro tem applications. Deadline is April 28th,
Yes,
you know?
yes.
So we have not received
No,
any
and
applications yet.
we're very weak on agriculture. In fact, I want to say that on the planning commission, it used to be Gary Bedortha and myself. And of course, we had agriculture representation and we don't have that. So we do need, if you know anybody that represents agriculture, I'm putting in my plug there because I feel we do need agriculture representation. So
I did send I gotta tell you, I
Tell-
sent my application, it must have thrown it away because I sent it to McDonald or whatever. So.
no, you got to send it to Sarah. Yes.
That was
we've only-
before there was a vacancy, before the window was,
Okay.
and
You gotta read it.
there's a vacancy
Yes.
and there's now I added a recommendation, a requirement for letters of
On
recommendation.
the
So, yeah.
webpage.
We've only
On the
received
webpage.
one and it
on the web-
wasn't your name. So get it in there. Okay.
I'm looking for another job.
Okay, there you go. And there's a fair board vacancy. There you go. So there's 2 vacancies right there.
Okay, Ken, do you want to follow up? Okay. Denise? No?
And Kent, Fair Board or Planning Commission. There you go.
All right, well, there's no executive session, so motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Motion made, second. Any discussion? Certainly not. All in favor, aye?
Turner guy.
Aye.
Didn't get you out as early as I thought. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.